The group by function in Excel is amazing for summarizing data, but what if we want to make it a bit more dynamic and see the breakdown of an item that we select? Now that would be really useful, and the good news is that with a bit of Excel formula magic, we can do it, and that's what we're looking at in this video. So if you're ready, let's get started. On the left, we have the data that we are working with. We have 4 columns. The first is the transaction ID, then it's the product, then it's the region, and then the value. For our example, we want to create a data validation list. This will determine which items we want to see the breakdown for. In cell G4, I'll type equals VStack, opening bracket. The first value that we want to include in our list is the word all. So this means we will select all the items to view the breakdown for. The next item we want is none. This means we won't display any breakdown. After that, we want to display each of our individual products. So for that, we're going to use the sort function. Then we're going to use the unique function. Then we can select our product column. We can then close all of those brackets. And when we commit that, that list displays all the items that we want to show in our data validation list. Let's go and create that next. I'll select cell K3 and then go to the data ribbon and select data validation. In the allow dropdown, I will select list. Then for the source, we want that to be equal to G4. We want the entire spill range starting at that cell, so we need to enter hash. Then we can click OK. That now creates our data validation list. If we click on the drop down, you can see each of those items. We could select all, we could select none, or we could select a specific product. We've now got our dynamic selection set up as a data validation list. Next, we want to build the formula to display the summary, but we want to make sure that this displays the full breakdown for the selected item. This is going to be a really interesting formula, so let's go take a look. Let's start in cell I6. I'll type equals if, opening bracket. Now we have 2 conditions. First of all, in the first set of brackets, we want to check whether each row in our product column is equal to the value in cell K3. That's our first condition. Now we want to use OR logic, so I'm going to enter an addition sign. Then for our second condition, we want to check whether K3 equals all. So in both of those scenarios, we want to display the breakdown. And that breakdown is going to be based on the H stack of the values in the ID column and also the region column. If both of those conditions are not true, we want to return a value. And the value that we're going to return is the word remove. So we're going to create an array. The first value for the first column will be remove. I'm going to put that in square brackets. And then also for the second column, we also want to return the value of remove. Now these values will never be displayed. We just need them to exist so we can then filter them out in a few moments time. When we calculate that, you can see that we have a value for every row which contains Bravo, or it displays remove for all of the other rows. Let's go back and edit our formula. We're going to start by adding the let function at the start. This allows us to allocate previous calculations to specific names. The first name we're going to create is display fields. And this means that the result of our if calculation will be allocated to the name display fields. Now let's create another name, and we're going to call this row fields. This is going to be the H stack of our product column and our display fields calculation. Next, let's create a new name called calc. For this, we're going to use the GROUPBY function. For the row fields argument, we're going to use our row fields calculation. For the values argument, we want to use the value column. Then we come to the function argument. In this scenario, we want to sum our values together. Therefore, we're going to use the sum function. For the next argument of field headers, we're happy with the default value, so we can press comma to skip over that argument. The next argument is total depth. In this scenario, we want to place our total at the top and then display our breakdown underneath. Therefore, we're going to enter -2, which is grand and subtotals at top. We can now close our GROUPBY function. The last argument of let is the value that we want to return. So let's return our calc and see what our calculation currently looks like. You can see we have grand total at the top. Then we have alpha, which has a total row, and then another row which includes the words remove. After that, we have bravo. It has a total row and then the breakdown of each individual row. After that, we have a total for Charlie and a row that says remove. Then we have the same for delta and for echo. So we need to remove any values which contain the word remove. Let's go and edit our formula. I'll delete the section at the end, and then we're going to create a new name called filter. So we're going to use the filter function. The first argument of array will be our calc. So that is the result of our group by. Then for the include argument, we're going to use choose cols on that same calc array. And we want to look at column 2. And we want to leave the rows that do not equal the word remove. Now in our group by, we stated that we wanted the total above the breakdown. However, what I really want is our grand total to be at the bottom. So let's create a new name called result. And for this, we're going to take the vstack and then we're going to use the drop function. So we want to take the result of filter and we want to remove the first row. So our drop will be one row. Next, we want to use the take function. And from that same filter array, we want to take the first row. So that means in the first part of the vstack, we have removed the grand total, and then using take, we've added it to the bottom. That's our final calculation. So now for the last section of let, we want to return our result. We now get the breakdown for bravo because that is the value in cell K3. If we change that to delta, we now get the breakdown for delta. If we change it to all, we see the breakdown for all items. Or if we change it to none, we don't see any of the breakdowns. That's our formula, and when we change the data validation list, everything updates, but it's difficult to read. So let's go add some conditional formatting, which will help to display everything in a much clearer way. To start with, we need to select a range which will be bigger than our array will occupy. So I will select the cell from I6 down to L36. Next, I'll go to the home ribbon and conditional formatting and then create a new rule. This rule will be based on a formula. The formula that we want to use is to check each row in column I and check whether it equals grand total. Therefore, we're going to enter equals $I, which means it always selects column I, and we want to start at row 6, which is the first selected row. And we want to check whether that is equal to grand total, and that is in double quotes. We'll then select format. The format we want to apply is to make the font bold, and then for the border, we want to apply a top and bottom border. Then I'll click OK and OK again, and our grand total now looks like a total. Next, let's add another rule. So from conditional formatting, we'll go to new rule. And again, we want to use a formula to determine which cells to format. This time we want to look down column J. So I'll type equals $J. We want to start in row 6. And we want to check where that does not equal a blank cell. So that is an empty text string. We can then click format. This time we're going to apply a fill, and that fill is going to be light grey. We also want a font color, and for that we're going to use a dark grey. Now we want to make sure that our text values are indented. Therefore, we're going to apply a custom number format. I'll click on custom and then delete the text general. In here, we can enter the number format that we want to use. For positive numbers, I'm going to enter hash, comma, hash, hash, 0. So that means it will display a number, and if that number is bigger than 1,000, it will use a comma as the 1,000 separator. I'll then use an underscore and a closed bracket, give spacing equivalent to a closed bracket. I'll then enter a semicolon. This now brings us to the negative number section. I want to place any negative numbers in brackets, so I'll enter open bracket, hash, comma, hash, hash, 0, and then I want a closing bracket. Then I'll enter another semicolon. We then come to the section as to how we want to display 0 numbers. For this, we're going to enter a dash, and then an underscore and a closed bracket. So a 0 will display as a dash with enough space for a closed bracket as padding. Then finally, we come to the text value. Here, we're going to use 4 spaces and then the @ symbol. That means that any text value will be preceded by 4 spaces. I can then click OK and OK again. Now let's change our breakdown to Bravo, and we now see the breakdown for Bravo. Let's change it to Delta, and we now see the breakdown for Delta. How about if we select all, and we now see the breakdown for all of those items. If we change it to none, we don't see any breakdown at all. And that's it. That's how we can use group by to summarize our values, but also get a breakdown of a specific item. If you like this video, then all I ask is you click the like button, subscribe and get notifications. This tells YouTube that this is a helpful video, and it means you won't miss any of our future videos. That sounds like a win-win to me, and who doesn't want one of those win-win scenarios? And then once you've done that, if you want another in-depth group by video, check out this one next. I think it's another one you'll really enjoy. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.